Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
Hey, how you doing? My name is Greg Knapp. I am in for Chad. You can do 844-DIG-CHAD to be a part of the program, 844-DIG-CHAD, and you can go online, thechadshow.com. And there's lots of ways to get involved with the program. Of course, you love Twitter if you're a follower of Chad Benson. That's at Chad Benson Show on Twitter. Lots of ways for you to be a part of it. And the big thing that we got to get to at first today is what happened with President Trump's instant presser. And what happened was there was supposed to be a meeting between some members of the House, including Speaker Nancy Pelosi, Democrat, Chuck Schumer, Democrat, and others, on this big infrastructure bill. Now, I'm not a big fan of the infrastructure bill to begin with. It's let's spend money we don't have. I mean, we're already $20 trillion in debt. Why not another trillion or two? I mean, hey, I thought we were supposed to have shovel-ready jobs last time we did this with Obama. Now we're doing it with the Republican president. I'm not super excited about it, and I'll tell you why. It's not like we don't have money to spend on transportation. You realize we spend about $76 billion a year on transportation. At the federal level. Then there's all the state levels that we do for transportation. And it's not enough? Maybe we're not spending it correctly. Just maybe we shouldn't be spending all of it on California high-speed rails. And thankfully, Trump's clawing some of that back. Or streetcars in places like Kansas City. Really? Your money going to that? Oh, yeah. And maybe we shouldn't spend some of the transportation budget on a bike path if you're really trying to do infrastructure. Hey, I love bike paths, but maybe we could let the local people handle bike paths. Just some ideas coming from somebody that doesn't have a lot of power, all right? But Trump and the Democrats supposedly agree on the big infrastructure deal. So they're going to have another meeting to figure out how they're going to do this. And then what happens? Well, Pelosi and the Democrats continue to just go after Trump. 20-some odd investigations going on right now, continually calling him a crook and a liar and a traitor, and this guy should be impeached. And they can't figure out why he's finally said, you know what? Forget you guys. I'm not going to sit here and try and legislate with you while you continually investigate me, call me names, and as Nancy Pelosi put it, she said that he's involved in a cover-up. Cover up? How can you cover up something that didn't happen? The Russia collusion did not happen. And they're still trying to make something out of this. So Trump walked out of the meeting. And what happened was he came out to the Rose Garden. And he had a few things to say. Let's start with cut one from President Trump.
So I came here to do a meeting on infrastructure with Democrats. Not really thinking they wanted to do infrastructure or anything else other than investigate. And I just saw that Nancy Pelosi, just before our meeting, made a statement that we believe that the President of the United States is engaged in a cover-up. Well, it turns out I'm the most, and I think most of you would agree to this, I'm the most transparent president probably in the history of this country. We have given on a witch hunt, on a hoax. The whole thing with Russia was a hoax as it relates to the Trump administration and myself. It was a total horrible thing that happened to our country.
Now, when he's talking about the most transparent, I know the Democrats are saying, what? What are you talking about? He hasn't turned over his tax returns. Well, what Trump's talking about is how transparent they were for the entire Mueller report. That's what he's talking about. Well, what about the tax returns? Well, there's no law that the president has to show his tax returns before he runs for office. In fact, it was only a few presidents ago that became a normal thing. But why should you have to show your tax returns? It's kind of like, why didn't President Obama show his transcripts? Well, that's different. Why? I mean, for you want to show this, you don't want to show that. You're not supposed to have any privacy if you run for president? I don't really care. What are they trying to find? They want to try and show that he's not as rich as he says he was. They want to try and see what kind of tax breaks he got. Well, isn't the IRS responsible for whether or not you filed appropriate taxes or not? But that's the straw they're grasping at, right? So Trump's like, what are you talking about? Well, I've been transparent. We've been transparent. he counts some of the ways they were transparent. Cut 2.
It hurt us in so many ways. Despite that, we're setting records with the economy, with jobs. We have the most people employed today that we've ever had in the history of our country. We have the best unemployment numbers that we've had in the history of our country. In some cases, 51 years, but generally in the history of our country. Companies are moving back in. Things are going well. And I said, let's have the meeting on infrastructure. We'll get that done easily. That's one of the easy ones. And instead of walking in happily into a meeting, I walk in to look at people that had just said that I was doing a cover-up. I don't do cover-ups.
Don't do cover-ups. So he was going through all the good things that have been happening while they've been trying to impeach him, trying to remove him from office, trying to handicap his presidency before it even began. I mean, this started between the time he won to the time he was inaugurated all the way till now, and they're still trying to do it. So he's saying, here's all the good things that have still been going on. Man, just imagine what we could do if we didn't have this silent coup attempt going on. So he talked about the good stuff happening. He said, I don't do cover-ups. And he continues to go, I think this is the one that actually gets into some of the details of allowing the Mueller report to move forward. Go ahead. Cut 3.
More than 2,500 subpoenas qualified for. And I let everybody talk. I let the White House counsel speak for 30 hours. 30 hours. I have 19 special counsel lawyers, 40 FBI agents. I said, open it all up. Let them have whatever they want. Nearly 500 search warrants. Think of that, a search warrant. Did you ever see a search warrant before? Neither did I. This was over 500 search warrants. And of the 19 people that were heading up this investigation, or whatever you want to call it, with Bob Mueller, they were contributors to the Democrat Party, most of them, and to Hillary Clinton. They hated President Trump. They hated him with a passion. They went to her big party after the election that turned out to be a wake. Not a party, it was a wake.
Are you surprised we're still talking about this? I mean, we should all be surprised. We're not, because we're jaded now and because we know what the Democrats are going to do. But when a report comes out that took 2 years, that cost this much money, there was this much evidence and research and everything done on it, and there was no collusion found at all, no conspiracy, no coordination with the Russians, wouldn't you think it'd be done? I mean, isn't it time to actually do what we're supposed to be doing with our government? No, we got to get him. Because Mueller didn't say whether there was obstruction or not, and clearly there is. No, if there clearly was, then there would have been a charge. Well, we think there is. Obstruction of what? Of no crime. Obstruction of a crime that didn't happen. And where was Nancy Pelosi, by the way, on Bill Clinton and impeachment and his high crimes and misdemeanors? And what about the cover-ups from the Obama administration with Fast and Furious and Benghazi and the IRS going after the conservative groups? No, nothing wrong with that. But this is why people totally turn off politics. Because they see the hypocrisy. They see the double standards. They see that they're not really interested in moving the country forward. They're interested in trying to get rid of President Trump. Plain and simple. They can't stand him. They don't think he should have been in. They certainly don't want to run against him again because they think they might lose. They got to hurt him any way they possibly can, and that's what this is all about. And Trump fights back, and that's what they don't like. Listen, I don't know if you know me, how many times you've heard me before, but I'm not the biggest Trump fan. I don't like a lot of his personal behavior. I don't think I don't like the way that he's handled his marriages. I don't like some of the things that he says. I don't like some of the things that he tweets. But you know what? I had a decision to make, like you did. Trump or Hillary? Not even close in my mind. It's got to be Trump. Well, but look at Trump's moral character and look at what Trump is. Yeah, look at Hillary's. I mean, neither one of them had a good moral character. And the more important thing, I'm sorry, but it is, the more important thing is, what are your policies going to be? And what kind of judges are you going to appoint? And what is it going to do in terms of moving our country one way or the other towards what I believe is what we're supposed to be, a constitutional republic, compared to what the other side believes are supposed to be, socialist country. So not even close. So, yeah, I'm willing to put up with some things that I don't like about President Trump because there's no one who I like everything they do. Right? So I like the fact that Trump is not sitting down and taking it, that Trump will fight back, that Trump punches back, that Trump makes it so that the media has to pay attention to the nonsense that is going on, and that Trump drives these people crazy. Cut 4, Trump decides to throw back in the whole Russia thing.
This is very sad, because this meeting was set up a number of days ago at 11 o'clock. All of a sudden, I hear last night they're going to have a meeting right before this meeting to talk about the I word. The I word. Can you imagine? I don't speak to Russians about campaigns.
Russians?
When I went to Wisconsin and Michigan and Pennsylvania, I don't say, oh, let's call Russia. Maybe
Russia.
it's a hoax. The greatest hoax in history.
I love that. I don't call Russia. Oh, man, that's good. So, look, the press is pointing out, the mainstream press, unbiased, fair and balanced. They're pointing out, well, Trump knew this. He had planned this because he had a sign ready to go, and there were handouts in the Rose Garden. So he knew what he was going to do. Yeah, so? Well, so it was all a setup and a plan. Yeah, because last night he heard that they were going to have a meeting right before the infrastructure meeting where they were going to have the press assembled, where they were going to talk about impeaching Trump. And guess what? That ticked him off. Wouldn't it tick you off? They're coming to try to work with the president, supposedly. Bipartisan fashion, supposedly. And they're going to talk about impeachment right before they meet with him? Yeah, I'd be ticked off too. So, yes, he set up a little plan. Kind of like how the Democrats constantly plan to take down Trump. Only Trump doesn't have the media on his side, and Trump doesn't have celebrities on his side, and Trump doesn't have Twitter and Facebook on his side. Trump has Trump and his Twitter feed and his base, and that's about it. And somehow he's still winning. 844-DIG-CHAD. Get you on board. 844-DIG-CHAD. You got to hear this question thrown at Trump by the press about the balance of powers. We'll let you hear how Pelosi responded to all this. It's coming up in just a minute. My name is Greg Knapp. I'm in for Chad on the Chad Benson Show.
Chad Benson Show, where we make no apologies, although we do say a few Hail Marys and Our Fathers now and then. Amen.
And my name's Greg Knapp, in for Chad on the Chad Benson Show. 844-DIG-CHAD for you to be a part of it. 844-DIG-CHAD or thechadshow.com online. And don't forget, over at Twitter, the handle is at Chad Benson Show. Lots of ways for you to be a part of it. We're talking about President Trump canceling the meeting at the White House with the Democrats to work on the infrastructure bill. And he said, yeah, I find out last night that they're going to have a meeting right before our meeting and talk about impeaching me. Well, why would I meet with them? I'm not going to legislate with them while they're investigating me 22 different ways to Sunday. And he was saying, I don't do cover-ups. I've been transparent throughout this whole Mueller investigation. So then at that Rose Garden presser, a reporter shouts out at him and wants to know if President Trump believes Congress is an equal branch of the government. I don't remember that question being asked to President Obama when he said, I've got a phone and I've got a pen. I can go around Congress. When he did the DACA, the so-called DREAM Act, that is totally unconstitutional. The press didn't ask that question then, but because President Trump's people are resisting some of these subpoenas and saying they're not legal subpoenas, the Democrats are saying, aha, this man doesn't understand the Constitution. This man says he doesn't think that we're an equal branch government. So the press dutifully echoing what the Democrats are saying, Mr. Trump, do you believe that Congress is an equal branch of government? Cut 5.
Respect the courts. I respect Congress. I respect right here where we're standing. But what they've done is abuse. This is investigation number 4 and the same thing. Probably 5. And it really started, I think, pretty much from the time we came down the escalator in Trump Tower. So I say to you that we're going to get everything done. We're doing a lot without them. Let them play their games. We're going to go down one track at a time. Let them finish up, and we'll be all set.
So Trump said, listen, I was transparent during the Mueller probe. He didn't use executive privilege at all during the Mueller probe. Didn't use it to shield documents. Didn't use it to stop his people from coming out and testifying. They testified for hours and hours in front of the Mueller people. And he said that Schumer and Pelosi, they weren't really ready to work with him. They're trying to impeach him. And I can see where he's coming from. How about you? Do you think he was right? There was a White House official who spoke to CNBC on condition, of course, of anonymity. Said the meeting in the cabinet room only lasted about 7 minutes, and Trump effectively said to the visiting Democrats that, hey, I wanted to do infrastructure, but you're focused on investigating. When you're done with that, we can talk. Meeting over. Good. Good. But as I said, CNBC reporting, it appeared as though Trump's abrupt walkout had been planned in advance, given the White House had a prepared sign and handouts for reporters. Aha! Planned! Yeah, because, Nancy, Chuck, Bernie, AOC, they don't plan anything against Trump. Never plan in advance. That's all they do is plan in advance how to go after Trump. But he shouldn't be able to plan something like that. It just shows that it's political. Political in the White House? So after Trump was done, Pelosi and Schumer held their quick presser. Schumer said Trump's actions at the meeting would make your jaw drop. But, of course, what Schumer and Pelosi and AOC and Bernie and Warren all do, that won't make your jaw drop, right? Right. Okay. We do have some from Pelosi. Pelosi went out, and she wanted to give her rebuttal to Trump. Here's Pelosi.
We do believe that it's important to follow the facts. We believe that no one is above the law, including the President of the United States. Okay. And we believe that the President of the United States is engaged in a cover-up. A
cover-up of no crime. Right? Cover-up of no crime. I got more on this in just a second. Greg Knapp in for Chad Benson on The Chad Benson Show.
The Chad Benson Show.
Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
And my name is Greg Knapp. I'm in for Chad on The Chad Benson Show. You can be a part of it and let everybody know what you think at 844-DIG-CHAD. 844-DIG-CHAD. Online Twitter is at Chad Benson Show. Lots of ways for you to be a part of the broadcast. And we're talking about President Trump walking out of this meeting with Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer on infrastructure because he said, I heard the night before they're going to have this big meeting right before they meet with me about impeaching me. No, I'm tired of these investigations, these ridiculous calls for more and more and more paperwork, 22 investigations going on. There was no Russian collusion. It was all a hoax. This is paraphrasing Trump. And I don't do cover-up, and I'm not going to do this. And Nancy Pelosi is out there trying to act like somehow President Trump is the bad one. Trump says, look, I've said from the beginning, right from the beginning, you probably can't go down two tracks. You can't go down the investigation track. Sorry, you can go down the investigation track or you can go down the investment track, but not both. Right? And he said the message to the lawmakers is get these phony investigations over with. And then he went out and did his Rose Garden talk. So Pelosi is out there saying that she believes the president is engaged in a cover-up. Then the reporter said, hey, were you successful at trying to convince some of your members on impeachment or contempt? Is that a part of the persuasion at this stage? These reporters are like cheering it on. They want this so bad. Pelosi, it wasn't a question of persuasion. We were just exchanging information and points of view. Oh, yes. Yes, that's all it is. And then Pelosi also went on to say this about Trump canceling the meeting. Well, maybe it was a lack of confidence on his part, that he really couldn't match the greatness of the challenge that we have. Wasn't really respectful of the Congress and the White House working together. Oh, man. Talk about pot meat kettle. They didn't want to work with him. They want to impeach him. They don't want to do anything that can give him credit for anything. She went on, it just makes me wonder why he did that. He told you exactly why he did it. In any event, I pray for the President of the United States. You know, don't stand too close to Nancy right now. She might get struck by lightning. I mean, now she's going to try and use God in her partisan politics. Do you really think she's praying for Trump right now? Maybe all those people that get mad when you say I'm praying for you when somebody gets shot should say that we need more than prayers for Trump. You know, if you're a lefty. She goes, we went in the spirit of bipartisanship to find common ground with the president. Really? When all you do is talk about impeaching him and that he's a liar and he's a crook and he's this and he's that. I'll pray for the president. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So Trump is on a tweet storm. You know, he says, so sad that Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer will never be able to see or understand the great promise of our country. They can continue the witch hunt, which has already cost $40 million and been a tremendous waste of time and energy for everyone in America, or get back to work. But they really want a do-over. You can't investigate and legislate simultaneously. It just doesn't work that way. You can't go down two tracks at the same time. Let Chuck, Nancy, Jerry, Adam, he's talking about Jerry Nadler and Adam Schiff, and all the rest finish playing their games. In the meantime, my administration is achieving things that have never been done before, including unleashing perhaps the greatest economy in our country's history. Democrat leadership is tearing the United States apart, but I will continue to set records for the American people. And Nancy, thank you so much for your prayers. I know you truly mean it. By the way, what have the Democrats done for the country since they've taken over the House? Oh, that's right, nothing. Because they're not doing anything to work with Trump. Why would you vote for them again? Well, because they're going to take down Trump. Yeah, that's. I guess that's why they have to do it. That's why Nancy Pelosi feels pushed to do this. She has to. I'm going to get back to that in a minute. There's some other things I wanted to hit today, too. This one, the headline just stopped me. I was like, this has got to – is this The Onion? Is this fake news? Well, see, now the problem is it's really hard to tell because a lot of the so-called news is fake news. But this is real. It happened in Virginia. A woman put in her will that when she died, she wanted her dog to be buried with her. Yeah, well, that's, you love your dog. I get that. But her dog's still alive and healthy. And she died. So the woman dies, and they go ahead and follow her wishes in her will to euthanize a healthy dog to have it buried with her. So here's my question for you. Do you think that is the right thing to do? I just can't imagine most dog lovers think that is the right thing to do. There was nothing wrong with the dog, and the woman's dead, and so she gets to kill her dog in order to have it buried with her. And, of course, the kicker on all this, after they did it, the cops are saying we doubt that the dog's ashes were buried with her because that's illegal in Virginia. But what? You can't have your dog buried with you? Nope. Permitting the internment of a pet in the same grave, crypt, or niche as the remains of a human is prohibited under VAC 472190, and no private company may engage in the business of a cemetery company in the Commonwealth of Virginia without first being issued a license by the board. So after all that, the dog gets killed, and they're saying, not buried with her anyway. Come on. Yeah. Virginia woman reportedly had her healthy dog euthanized so it could be buried with her as part of her last will and testament. It's a Shih Tzu mix named Emma. Okay, here's another thing. When do we start naming our pets real names, like human names? I know that's a big thing now, and I understand this is Grandpa Knapp coming out. Get off my guard! I just want to know when we started calling our pets real names. Because, it used to be Spot, right? Boots. What's your dog's name? Now I see people, what's your dog's name? David? David? That's not a dog's name. Come on. Your dog should be a really cool name like Captain or Tennille. Wait, was that a Captain and Tennille reference? I mean, just recently Tennille passed away, so I wanted to give a shout out. But you should have a cool name for your dog. Jumper. Big Boy. Bubba. Well, Bubba in the South could be just about anybody. But Dave? Steve? People are naming their dog Steve. So this woman named her Shih Tzu Emma. And it was brought to the Chesterfield Animal Shelter in Virginia. And once they read the will, they came to the shelter, got the dog, and the shelter's like, hey, when we find out what's going on, we said, we can find this dog a home. This is a beautiful dog. It's healthy. Shih Tzus are very popular. We can find this dog a home. Nope. Took the dog. Euthanized at the local vet's office. Remains cremated. Put in an urn. And returned to the legal owner of the woman's property. Because the dog is property. Now, I know there are places that are trying to say that pets aren't property, and you're not the owner, you're the guardian, and I think that's semantics, but maybe this is why some people are trying to do it, because an owner can do whatever they want with their property. A guardian cannot do whatever they want with whatever they're the guardian of. So I got a whole other question here now. If you are a veterinarian, and you are brought a dog or a cat, and you're told the owner of this cat died, and their last will and testament says they want the pet euthanized so it can be buried with them. And you say, well, but this dog is perfectly healthy, and it's got, I don't know, it's only about 8 years old. It's probably got another 6-7 years of life left. Would you kill the dog? You're a veterinarian. I don't know much about veterinarians in terms of, I'm sure they don't have the Hippocratic Oath like human medical doctors, right? But I know they've got some ethics that they live by and work by. You're allowed to just euthanize a perfectly healthy animal because the owner doesn't want it anymore. Look, I know that sometimes that happens in shelters. I get that because there's just not enough space. But just because of this? Yep, happened. Said the police didn't know if the animal ended up being buried, like I said, but it is against the law to do so. Am I the only one who seems to care about this? Because it just seems weird to me. 844-DIG-CHAD gets you on board the program. 844-DIG-CHAD. Don't forget, it's at Chad Benson Show on Twitter and thechadshow.com online. There is more to this story of what was going on with President Trump and the Democrats on the meeting that was canceled because President Trump said, I'm not going to work on legislation with these people when they're trying to impeach me, when they're trying to just throw in as many investigations at me as possible, throwing as much stuff up on the wall as they can to see what sticks. I'm not going to keep doing it. And it's time for them to stop the nonsense. Well, the problem is there's so much push on the left to do this that even though Nancy Pelosi knows politically it's probably not smart to continue down this path, that maybe they should actually do something that they could bring to the voters and say, here's what we've actually done. She's getting so much push from the far left that she's buckling. And so I want to let you hear what Bernie Sanders has said about it, what one representative in Florida is saying about it, and what AOC is saying about it. They're all starting to move towards this idea of we're going to have to impeach. We're going to have to impeach. Going to have to impeach. Well, Joe Biden's out there lapping the field on the Democratic side by saying we've got to be middle of the road again on the Democratic side. Who's going to win that pull? Who's going to win that tug of war? And is Biden really that far ahead, or is it simply because he's the biggest name right now and there's 24 people running? I don't think Biden's really as far ahead as the media wants you to think. Time will tell on that one. Okay, so I got to get you what Bernie Sanders is saying about impeachment. A representative from Florida, we got some audio from that. And what Representative Jim Jordan, Republican, said the Democrats are plotting behind the scenes. All of that coming up in just a minute. My name's Greg Knapp. I'm in for Chad on The Chad Benson Show.
Being antisocial sucks. Hang with Chad's friends on Facebook, The Chad Benson Show. And if you just need some alone time, head on over to Twitter at Chad Benson Show. Either way, we can't wait to meet the real you.
And my name is Greg Knapp. I'm in for Chad on the Chad Benson Show. You can jump in as well, 844-DIG-CHAD and thechadshow.com. Yes, Pelosi starting to cave on the idea that we must impeach the president. Bernie Sanders jumping in. He was on CNN with Jake Tapper, and he said, to be very honest with you, Jake, I'm not sure that this president may not want to be impeached. He may think that it works for him politically. That could be true. It probably would work for him politically. Which is why Nancy Pelosi's been trying to hold it off. So Bernie goes on. But I think if he continues to not understand the Constitution of the United States, the separation of powers. See, they're all upset that they've issued subpoenas and they're not getting what they want. Oh, you mean like what happened to the Republicans when they were issuing subpoenas to Obama for forever? You mean like that? Yeah, it is an equal balance of powers. So Congress says we want this. They issue the subpoenas. The executive branch says back to them, you don't have the power to do that. We have executive privilege on this. You don't have legal standing for that. Then you go to the courts and you decide, the court tries to decide who's telling the right story here. That's the way this thing works. But now all of a sudden, because it's Trump, he doesn't understand the Constitution, the separation of powers. The fact that Congress has every right to subpoena and it's the job of the administration to attend the hearings that the Congress is calling. If he doesn't understand that, it may well be time for an impeachment inquiry to begin. So, is he calling for impeachment? Well, to begin the impeachment proceedings and determine whether or not there are grounds for impeachment. But he's not the only one. Val Deming, Democrat from Florida, she was out there saying, yeah, we got to get this impeachment thing rolling. Here we go.
And so we're moving forward. As you've seen, the Attorney General did not honor the subpoena, nor did Mr. McGahn today. But we are moving forward, and I think you know, and a lot of other people do, that over a month ago, after reading portions of the Mueller report and now having read the entire report, and what we witnessed with total disregard for the law, I just believe that we're at the point of opening impeachment proceedings.
Got to open the impeachment proceedings. By the way, if what was in the Mueller report was so horrible, and it's not. I mean, there are things I don't like that Trump did in there, but the idea that somehow it's total disrespect for the law, really, then why didn't Mueller bring charges? Huh? Because he's not that stupid. He looked at it and he was like, I really don't think there's enough here to prove anything. But I don't want to say that. So I'll just kind of leave it like this and let him twist in the wind. So Beto O'Rourke was on CNN for the town hall. Nobody watched it. So I'm going to give you some of the sound because I know you missed it. And he was talking about whether or not impeachment should begin. Here's his answer, cut one.
What is your stance on starting impeachment proceedings against President Trump and why?
We should begin impeachment proceedings against Donald Trump. Not something that I take lightly. It's an incredibly serious, sober decision that we should make as a country. Really, the last resort when every other option has failed us.
The last resort when every other option has failed us. Let me translate. It's all we can do because he won the election. And then they're talking about, well, Pelosi, she's worried what it will do politically for impeachment. What do you think about that? Cut three.
Nancy Pelosi, the House Speaker, says that impeaching the president would be very divisive and would only help the president solidify his base.
I understand the political implications of this, but I think this moment calls for us to look beyond the politics. It's the very sanctity of the ballot box and the very future of the world's greatest democracy. And if this is important to us, and I think it is, then we need to look past those short-term consequences to the consequences to the future of this country.
The sanctity of the ballot box. Every single investigation has shown that there was nothing done at the ballot box by the Russians. Every single investigation has shown that there was no collusion or coordination or conspiracy between anybody in the Trump campaign and the Russians when it came to the election. And yet he's acting like none of that was ever found out. That, the Russians thwarted this election, and they messed with the ballot box. What is he even talking about? And yet there are still Democrats out there who believe that. that Trump colluded with the Russians, that he coordinated, that he conspired, that his people were involved with it, that the Russians stole the election. None of it's true, and they're still believing this stuff. Wow. That's Beto O'Rourke. The problem is there's like 865 people running now on the Democratic side, and I don't even know whether to give any of these people any airtime because you're just elevating people that have no chance of ever being president anyway. And I think that's why Biden is riding high in the polls right now. Oh, talk about trying to get attention. Kirsten Gillibrand, she's running on the Democratic side and is polling at like less than 1% right now, I think. So she's got to run to the left as fast as she can. You ready for the latest? She's putting forward a family bill of rights. I mean, that sounds nice. I mean, we've got an individual bill of rights. Why not a family bill of rights? I mean, that just sounds like a nice thing to do. And, don't worry, it's not going to cost you anything. Oh, wait, of course it will. Wait till you hear what she wants to be covered in the Family Bill of Rights. I'm going to get to that in just a minute. My name is Greg Knapp. I'm in for Chad on The Chad Benson Show.
This is The Chad Benson Show.
Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
And my name is Greg Knapp. I'm in for Chad on The Chad Benson Show. You can be a part of the program in many ways. You can call in and let everybody know what you think at 844-DIG-CHAD, 844-DIG-CHAD. You can go online to learn even more about the show and the different topics that are out there at thechadshow.com. And on Twitter, it's at Chad Benson Show. I was telling you just a minute ago about Kirsten Gillibrand. She's running for president, don't you know? Who? Yeah, I know. Kirsten Gillibrand, she's polling less than 1%. But in order to get attention out of the 385th person running on the Democratic side, you got to go as far left as you can, unless your name's Joe Biden. And so she's jumping out there with what she's calling a family bill of rights. I mean, who could be against a family bill of rights? We've got an individual bill of rights. Well, yeah, that's because America was built on the idea of individual rights, not group rights, not identity rights. Not because you're this skin color or that skin color or this sexuality or that sexuality, just that every individual is treated as an individual. That's what it was about. But now if you say, hey, everybody should be treated the same, that makes you a racist, or that makes you a transgender phobe, or that makes you homophobe, or that. Wait a second. The exact opposite of those things is treating everyone the same. No, it used to be, but now when you're saying the same, what you really mean is different. What? No, I mean the same. What you're saying is you want different treatment. Oh, so you got to go far left. So Kirsten Gillibrand has her family bill of rights, and who would be against that? Guess what she wants included? Fertility treatments. Well, who could be against fertility treatments? I mean, you know how painful it is if you want a child and you can't get pregnant. It just rips the hearts out of these parents who want a child so bad. And they're looking around and they're like, man, these people that don't want kids at all are popping them out right and left. How come I can't get pregnant? What is going on? This isn't fair. And my heart breaks for them. The problem is Kirsten Gillibrand wants free fertility treatments. And what she really means by that is she wants to require insurance companies to cover fertility treatments. Man, they got to get this thing straight because Kamala Harris says it's time to just get rid of insurance companies. And now Kirsten Gillibrand says we're going to force insurance companies to pay for your fertility treatments. Do you realize how expensive those are? Yeah, that's why we need them paid for by the insurance company. But you realize that means they're going to pass on that cost to the rest of us, right? I mean, that's how it works. It's not free. It's got to come from somewhere. Somebody's got to pay for it, and the insurance company's going to pass it on to all the rest of us who actually pay our premiums. Look, I feel horrible for people who want to have a baby and can't. But shouldn't the insurance money go for an illness? What do you say? That's not an illness? No, it's not an illness. It's a horrible thing. But it's not an illness not to get pregnant. It's just not. And to spend the money on that instead of somebody who has cancer or somebody who has heart disease or somebody who just had a stroke or somebody, there's only so much money to go around. You realize that when it comes to insurance. She doesn't care about the price, the cost of it. No. Gillibrand, U.S. Senator from New York, has struggled to gain traction in the crowded field of more than 20 Democratic presidential candidates vying to challenge President Donald Trump. So my new proposal, the Family Bill of Rights, will make all families stronger, regardless of who you are or what your zip code is, with a fundamental set of rights that levels the playing field starting at birth. And that's including requiring insurance companies to cover expensive fertility treatments. See, here's the other thing. Government is not set up. Our government was not devised by our founding fathers to, quote, level the playing field starting at birth. No. It was to allow you to be treated equally under the law. And it's up to you to do what you can with what you're born with. We are never going to be ever in a world where everyone who's born is born equally with parents, with money, with housing, with food, with schooling, it just isn't. And the promise you have in America that's been better than any other country on the planet is that no matter where you come from, the law is going to treat you the same. So you will have an equal opportunity to work hard and succeed. Not an equal outcome, but an equal opportunity to pursue whatever you want to pursue under the law. That's all. That's all. I mean, when I was growing up, and I know I'm going to sound like Grandpa Knapp for the second time today, but anytime I said, man, that's not fair, my mom would say, and who told you life was fair? Where did you think life was fair? But now it's, you're right, we need to pass a law. No, because every time you try to pass a law to make it fair, you're actually making it unfair to somebody else. So the best that we've decided in this country, and I pray to God that we continue that, is that we're not going to try to redistribute wealth and we're not going to try to, quote, level the playing field. What we're going to try and do is say we're going to treat everybody equally under the law. It doesn't matter whether you're the richest person in the world or the poorest person. We're going to treat you, the laws are going to apply equally to you. Now, the problem is sometimes that's not true, and we should work harder at that. But this idea that somehow government is going to level the playing field, how exactly? Are you going to, somebody's going to get in there? Okay, now you were born with a little bit more money, but you have a single parent. And you over here, you were a little bit poorer, but you were in a nice neighborhood. And you over here, you're black, but you're in a really nice school with great parents. But you over here, you're white, and obviously that makes you privileged, except you grew up in a really dilapidated trailer park with your grandparents because your mom is dead and your dad's on crack. So, okay, so how are we doing this again? And that's really the role of government. I don't think so. 844-DIG-CHAD gets you on board the program. 844-DIG-CHAD, and you are in. Let me jump over to the border wall because that's still percolating. The U.S. Customs and Border Protection, according to a lawyer for the Democrat-controlled U.S. House of Representatives, so far has used about $1.5 billion in 2018 funding to build 1.7 miles of fencing. What? That's all you... Are you kidding me? That's what a judge was told. Quote, the administration recently provided updated information to Congress on the status of its efforts as of April 30, 2019. Based on that updated information, it appears that CBP, Customs Border Patrol, has now constructed 1.7 miles of fencing with its fiscal year 2018 funding. Translation, $1.57 billion for 1.7 miles of fencing. What? So, of course, Sarah Huckabee Sanders goes on to Fox and Friends, and they're asking, is this true? And does the president still think he can get 400 miles done of the wall by the end of the year? And she says, absolutely, and that's an incorrect figure. Okay, who's telling the truth? Well, see, here's the thing. The president and his administration is lumping in all of the replacement fencing with the idea of building the wall. So when most people, or at least when I think about the wall, I'm thinking if they're saying they're building the wall, they're building new stuff, right? And Trump's saying, well, there's a lot of dilapidated stuff that had to be torn down and rebuilt, and we're starting there first. And so that's why it's easy for the critics to say we haven't built enough. Sanders says there's far more than 2 miles that have been built. We're still on track to get close to 500 miles built by the end of the year. The Army Corps of Engineers is working with DHS and DOD and putting a tremendous amount of effort into not just the new wall, but taking down some of the barriers that have existed that are completely ineffective and putting it in the very effective border wall they've been putting in the last couple of months. Well, here's my problem with this. Then President Trump should have come to the people, and he should be doing this at his rallies. And he should be showing video and photos of the dilapidated barriers in important places that aren't working and say, look, we've got this right here. This is a popular area for illegal aliens to come through. Look at all the illegal aliens going through at night with our night vision goggles, and look at the situation with these barriers. They're just not working. So we're going to have to take some of this money first and fix all these. Then we'll keep moving for new parts of the wall. Explain that to people. You've got to get people to understand what's going on, because most people are expecting 500 miles of new wall by the end of the year. So she said right now there's over 100 miles. I think it's close to 115 miles that have been finished. Well, she's talking about old barriers and the old fence being worked on. Is that what you thought when you heard about the wall? Then we go to, I think this is off the Daily Mail. They really got down into it. Trump was tweeting out on the whole idea of only 1.7 miles of fencing. And he said that it's wrong. He was hitting back at the, quote, haters. He said that it's been a complete demolition and rebuilding of old and worthless barriers with a brand new wall and footings. Quote, problem is, the haters say that's not a new wall, but rather a renovation. Wrong. And we must build where most needed. Well, I'm glad he's finally talking about it, but I can understand why people have thought that, because that's what I thought. How about you? Then we get a little bit deeper into this, saying that the first new wall project, where no barrier currently exists, is anticipated to start in April. Wait, you're talking about like a year from now? That April? That's what Customs and Border Patrol spokesman Roger Mayer said at the time. Well, so that was before April. So they're not talking about a year from now. That was supposed to start last month. It was designing and constructing approximately 25 miles of a levee wall system in a stretch of the Rio Grande area near McAllen. And now we're not sure how far along that project has gone, but that's the discrepancy here. That's the controversy. Old versus new. Are we going to get 500 miles of new fencing done by the end of this year? No. How much of new fencing? I don't know. It sounds like we're going to do 100 to 200 miles of old fencing. As long as it's being built, is that enough for you, or do you need to know how much new stuff is going through? So while all that's going on, then we've got a county in New Mexico who's very upset with what's happening at the border and what's happening with the transportation of illegal aliens all around the country. We're going to hit that one in a second. And then I got to tell you a crazy story. How about your toilet predicting if you're going to have heart failure? Oh, it's coming. My name's Greg Knapp. I'm in for Chad Benson. 844-DIG-CHAD gets you on board. This is the Chad Benson Show.
Serving up talk radio medium rare and dripping with irony. It's Chad Benson.
And my name is Greg Knapp. I'm in for Chad on the Chad Benson Show. Your way in is the telephone, 844-DIG-CHAD, 844-DIG-CHAD, or the internet, thechadshow.com, and good old Twitter, at Chad Benson Show is the handle. We were talking about what's going on with the wall. President Trump saying Hey, all you haters, we are building the wall. We're just rebuilding parts that are dilapidated or torn down or not doing a good job in the places where it's needed most. And so that's been over 100 miles already, and we're going to continue to do up to 500 miles before the end of the year. But brand new fencing, we're told that as of a month ago, it was 1.7 miles. So how do you feel about that? Then we move into New Mexico, and there's a county in New Mexico that says, hey, you got to quit shipping the illegal aliens to our county. Oh, you bunch of racists. I said, well, wait a second. This is the Associated Press. It says the New Mexico County approving a resolution opposing the relocation of migrants, illegal aliens, within its boundaries as federal authorities grapple with the influx of people crossing the U.S.-Mexico border. So here's what they're talking about. They say, look, we got a crisis going on here. You've already relocated thousands of illegal aliens in Las Cruces, Deming, Lordsburg. It's all in our county. And our local resources are at the breaking point. Really? Wait a second. So you ship in a bunch of illegal aliens that don't have jobs, that don't have any money, and some of them have health issues, and all of a sudden your local resources are strained? I'm shocked. I mean, because we were told that no, all the people coming in it's all going to be a positive economic incentive for everybody to take them. Well, no, it's not. Sorry, it's just not. That means you're a racist. How? Well, because they're all brown people. I don't care if they're all purple. The point is not what color they are or which country they came from. The point is you can't take everybody. I mean, that's just common sense. And even the Democrats used to understand that, but now they see it as a wrecking ball that they can use against anybody who points out the obvious. You know, there was this book a long time ago, play The Emperor's New Clothes, and nobody would tell the emperor the truth because they were afraid that they were going to be killed. It's almost the same now. Very few people are willing to tell the truth about what's going on in our country because they're afraid they're going to be called a racist or a xenophobe or a homophobe or a transgender phobe or a this or a that or a hater or rich or whatever, slur they want to throw at you because they can't debate the actual argument. Hey, we can't take everybody in the world who's poor. Racist! Now, how did that address my point that we can't take in everyone who's poor? It didn't, because they can't, because they know that's true. You can't take in everyone who's poor. So instead of debating you about it, they're just going to call you a racist. And it works. It's been working because more and more Americans are afraid to tell the truth, which is probably one of the reasons that, according to the polls, President Trump wasn't going to win because nobody wanted to admit it because they didn't want to be called a name. So these county officials say, hey, we don't want to be seen as political or racist. That has nothing to do with it. Oh, sure. They said, we have a poor county. We have almost no resources for this. And they said, look, if the federal authorities release more illegal aliens into Sierra County here, we don't have any buses. We don't have any rail stops. We don't even have any commercial flights. So we can't transport them to their sponsors anywhere in the country. How many other counties are going to get tired of this? I mean, you can only take so much. 844-DIG-CHAD gets you in, 844-DIG-CHAD. And then we move on to what happened at this meeting with the DHS Acting Secretary Kevin McLennan, where an Illinois congresswoman made an unbelievable accusation against our government. I'm going to get that for you, and I'll get you that toilet that can predict your heart troubles. It's all coming up. My name is Greg Knapp. I'm in for Chad Benson, 844-DIG-CHAD on The Chad Benson Show.
The Chad Benson Show.
Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
Hey, how you doing? My name is Greg Knapp. You are on The Chad Benson Show. I'm filling in for Chad. You can jump in at 844-DIG-CHAD. 844-DIG-CHAD online. It's thechadshow.com, and Twitter is at Chad Benson Show. So we've been talking about what's going on with the illegal immigration situation, and there was a tragedy that recently occurred. 16-year-old Guatemalan migrant, 16-year-old Guatemalan illegal alien in Border Patrol custody had some flu-like symptoms. Diagnosed with the flu. They gave him medication on Sunday because he had come to the medical staff and said, hey, I'm not feeling very well. So they gave him some medicine, but the next morning he was found unresponsive, and he had died. It's a horrible tragedy. It's like, okay, well, what happened there? Why didn't somebody say, hey, this kid is in trouble. I know you gave him some medicine, but it's not working. I mean, we don't know all the details yet. But unfortunately, there have been a few of these incidents over the last year or two with the overwhelming numbers coming through. We're learning more and more about how many people are sick as they're coming in. Some of these situations, it's been minor children where their own parents didn't seem to know that they were about to die. It's been horrible. Like I said, there's been 4, 5, 6 where this has happened. And we're trying to do everything we can to make sure that no one dies in custody. Well, not according to Illinois Congresswoman Laureen Underwood. She was in this hearing today with the immigration chief, the acting DHS secretary, Kevin McAleenan. Here's what she said. Illinois Congresswoman Lauren Underwood during the House Homeland Security Committee hearing. Quote, this is more than a question of resources. Congress has been more than willing to provide the resources and work with you to address these security and humanitarian concerns. No, they haven't. They've been asking for all kinds of help down there. More Border Patrol agents, more room for detention space, more money for the wall. Don't tell me you've been more than willing to help them. No, you haven't. So anyway, Illinois Congresswoman Democrat Lauren Underwood continued. But at this point, with 5 kids that have died, 5,000 separated from their families, I feel like, and the evidence is really clear, that this is intentional. Wait, what? We have an Illinois Congresswoman, Lauren Underwood, Democrat, claiming that 5 minors have been intentionally allowed to die in custody. But at this point, with 5 kids that have died, 5,000 separated from their families, I feel like, and the evidence is really clear, that this is intentional. It's a policy choice being made on purpose by this administration, and it's cruel and inhumane, she said. There was an audible reaction from the room, even some of her fellow Democrats, because immediately Mike Rogers, the ranking member for the Republicans, immediately called for a vote to strike Underwood's statements from the official record, and by a 9-7 vote, the committee agreed that her words should be taken down. Wow. McAleenan said, hey, these types of tragedies where the 16-year-old died in custody after being treated for flu-like symptoms. He said these types of tragedies are devastating to the department, and he pleaded with the lawmakers to send additional funds to the Department of Health and Services and enact legislative reforms. He said a lack of proper resources and restrictive laws are the root cause of these tragedies. He said our immigration officials are past their breaking point. Quote, I'm highly concerned my colleagues on the other side of the aisle are using politics to block the Department of Homeland Security from doing its job and securing our southern border. That's Republican Mark Green. Said my colleagues claim to be a party that defends federal workers, but where are they defending our brave ICE agents? Where are they in helping those who serve us? Good point. So this woman now, this Illinois Congresswoman Laureen Underwood, Democrat, is saying that allowing these children to die is intentional. Wow. McAleenan said That's an appalling accusation, and our men and women fighting hard to protect people in our custody every single day. We've asked for these resources 3 weeks ago. It hasn't been responded to by Congress. We've asked for changes in authorities for the last 3 years that would have prevented this from happening, and she's trying to blame them. By the way, why aren't the Democrats as upset about American citizens being killed by illegal aliens? More American citizens have been murdered by illegal aliens than have died in custody, than illegal aliens have died in our custody. Why aren't they upset about that? Because they'll say, oh, that's a small number. Oh, well, Americans commit murder too. What are you trying to say? All illegal aliens are murderers? No, not at all. What we're saying is that these people have been murdered by illegal aliens, and if the illegal aliens weren't here, those people would still be alive. I totally agree we have Americans who are murderers. That's a job Americans will do. We don't need to import more people to do that job. In fact, I don't want anyone to do that job. But why aren't you upset about that? Because that doesn't feed your cause. I don't want anybody to die in our custody. That leads us to Sheila Jackson Lee. Sheila Jackson Lee, Democrat Texas, was so upset about this that she said it's time to launch an investigation. Let's hear from Sheila Jackson Lee.
Next 48 hours, I'll be introducing a resolution of investigation. The opening comments in that resolution says the Judiciary Committee will investigate whether sufficient grounds exist for the House of Representatives to exercise the power by Article 1, Section 2, Clause 5 of the Constitution in respect to acts of impeachment of the President of the United States.
I'm sorry, that was her impeachment one. Oh, I forgot she did that one too. Yes, she's part of the impeachment posse. But she also came out and said about the 16-year-old dying in custody, I believe there should be an internal task force set up dealing with children, dealing with children's death. So she said to the DHS acting DHS secretary, my question to you is, will you set up an internal in-house task force to deal with these deaths, to find what solutions should be put in place? You ready for the answer from McAleenan? Congresswoman, we already have internal task force working on these issues. What? Yeah. See, we've already been doing that. Oh. Okay. Never mind. Yeah. It's already happening, you moron. I mean, can they really think that the people, look, the people who are working in ICE and our Customs and Border Patrol, these people are on the front lines. They are dealing face to face with people who are trying to come into our country illegally. They don't hate them. They see them as human beings. They want to help them. Now, they still have to do their job and say, there are rules and ways that you come in and come out. But these aren't people wanting people to die. That's just one of the worst things I've ever heard from a congresswoman. I mean, that's just, it's beyond the pale, man. You can't really believe that, can you? 844-DIG-CHAD, get you on board. 844-DIG-CHAD. Are you ready for a new way to monitor your heart? Now, if you know someone, maybe you have a loved one, a family, a friend, maybe, who has a heart problem, you know how hard it is to get them to constantly and consistently check their vitals. They need to check their blood pressure. They need to check how their heart's doing. And it's hard to do, and it takes a lot of effort. So there are some researchers at the Rochester Institute of Technology, and they've come up with a solution. They said, we've got to look at the easiest way to monitor our patients' health without requiring them to really do anything, because people just won't do it. And they thought, what can we do to integrate technology into your everyday life? Maybe it's with your computer. Maybe when you tap the mouse. Maybe it's holding the steering wheel in your car. But what do people use every day that we could tap into? You ready? What does every single one of us use every single day? The toilet. Bingo! So they said, hey, look, the toilet seat makes direct contact with your skin. That makes the monitoring easier, and everybody uses it. Well, the toilet seat, women use it more than men, but yes, most men use it at least once a day, I would say, right? I wonder if they're going to start requiring the men to sit on the toilet more, even for number one. Just a question. The seat has three main instruments on it, okay? It's got the electrocardiogram. Now, that uses electrodes on the seat's surface to measure your heart's electrical activity. But it's not like the kind of electrodes that you'd have to stick on your chest. I mean, you wouldn't even notice when you sit down on it. Then there's the photoplethysmogram. Now, that's the sensor that you have in a Fitbit. That will measure your heart rate. And then finally, the belastocardiogram. That senses your weight, and then based on how that weight fluctuates when the heart beats, that tells you the volume of blood that's actually passing through the heart. This stuff's amazing, isn't it? I mean, we really are living in an amazing time. That we're getting to the point where we're going to have a smart toilet seat, where you just sit on the toilet seat, it says for about 90 seconds, and it's going to check your cardiogram, it's going to check your heart rate, it's going to check your heart flow, blood flow, all by just sitting on the toilet for 90 seconds. And, okay, now we're going to get just a little bit gross to tell you one more detail about it. Because it says the instrument is sensitive enough, this toilet seat will be sensitive enough that you only need 90 seconds to get the full measurement, and they're not stupid at the Rochester Institute of Technology. They designed the algorithms in this program to recognize that while you're sitting on the toilet, are you resting or are you, how shall we say, straining? And we all know that certain times when you strain, certain things change in your body. And so they're saying, yeah, bowel movements and urination can actually cause enormous changes in your heart rate, your blood pressure, and your respiration. And they've got algorithms that account for all of that. Wow. Okay, now they're saying that once they get this thing perfected, it may be in everybody's house. I'm going to get you the details on exactly how that would work and how soon you might have this kind of toilet seat. And then remember the governor of Virginia and the whole blackface controversy in his college yearbook? Well, they have done an extensive study on this, and I'll tell you what they found out. My name is Greg Knapp, in for Chad Benson, 844-DIG-CHAD on The Chad Benson Show.
Warning, no snowflake zone. Uninformed opinions are in danger of melting. The Chad Benson Show.
And my name is Greg Knapp. I'm in for Chad on The Chad Benson Show. It was so funny you talk about the melting snowflakes, because my youngest daughter is a junior in high school. She's just about to finish her junior year, and we were just talking about this the other day because she has friends, or acquaintances, I guess is probably a better way to put it, but people in her class, in a performing arts class, that when they get some constructive criticism from the director, burst into tears and run. Or if they don't get, the grade they were expecting, they start crying. Or and my daughter's like, what is wrong with these people? I'm like, thank you for thinking there's something wrong with that. Yes, we can take someone saying, you know what, it would be better if you did this instead, or you know what, you got this one wrong, you need to study harder on this one. You can't say that to me. I'm never coming back to school again. How did we win World War II again? Oh, those were different people, right? Okay. Oh, thank you, appreciate it. What was the one I heard the other day? It was a couple of weeks ago. There were young people complaining about how hard it was to vote. And there was a 28-year-old dude who was interviewed by, I think it was the New York Times or the Washington Post. I can't remember which one now. And they asked him why he didn't vote. And his answer was, well, I was going to vote by mail, but going to the post office makes me anxious. Wait, what? You have to put the stamp on it. You have to go there. You have to put it in a little box, or you have to hand it to somebody. I don't do snail mail, man. It just makes me anxious. I'm not making this up. He said going to the post office made him anxious, so he couldn't vote. 28 years old. There are people who are 28 who actually have real jobs where they have to mail stuff all the time, or maybe they've gotten married and they own a house and they have kids. Maybe some of them have fought in a war. This dude can't go to the post office to vote and is claiming, therefore, his vote's being suppressed. Snowflakes indeed. 844-DIG-CHAD gets you on board the program. 844-DIG-CHAD gets you in. So we're talking about this toilet seat that monitors your heart. I think it's awesome. They're wanting to get it into as many homes as possible with people that have heart problems. It'll last up to 6 years. Uses cellular connection technology. And so they're saying we need to get it into these homes. Hey, maybe this could be paid for by Gillibrand's Family Bill of Rights. Remember Kirsten Gillibrand? She's wanting to put together a Family Bill of Rights, including forcing the insurance companies to pay for expensive fertility treatments. Well, why not for the toilet seat, too? Let's get that in there. They said, though, it could really be a cost savings because if you need one of those implantable medical heart monitoring devices that are out there, those can cost up to $40,000. All right? Now, what they're estimating this toilet seat will cost, which, by the way, would take care of everybody in the family, this toilet seat would be $100 a month for it to work. Because, you know, it's the monitoring fees and the cellular connection and all that kind of stuff. $100 a month. Okay, so for $1,200 a year, everybody in the family can have all their heart stuff monitored, compared to $40,000 for one person to implant it in their heart. And this, you don't even have to implant it in your heart. I think it sounds pretty good. They expect it to be ready and available at the end of 2021 or early 2022. Now, not everybody's going to need that. Right? We've got another investigation that took a lot of time that came up inconclusive. I'm not talking about the Mueller report. Mueller report wasn't inconclusive. They said no collusion in Russia. No coordination, no conspiracy. Yeah, but he was inconclusive on the obstruction of justice. Oh, okay, I see what you're saying. Well, remember the governor of Virginia, Ralph Northam, Democrat, when the yearbook photo came out that showed him in blackface, standing next to a guy with a KKK hood on. And he initially came out and said, yeah, I apologize for being in that photo. Then he said, I'm not really sure that's me. And everybody laughed. Of course that's you. Well, they've done a 3-month investigation commissioned by Eastern Virginia Medical School. And they could not determine whether or not the Virginia governor was in the photograph that appeared on his page in the school's 1984 yearbook. 3 months and you can't figure out whether that was him or not? I could do it easily. Hand me that magnifying glass. Yep, that's him. Next. No, yeah, it's inconclusive. We can't tell really whether that's him or not. You know why they really can't tell? Because if he got booted out and had to step down, the lieutenant governor has the whole sexual allegations against him. And then there's a third guy that said he wore blackface during college. They'd end up with a Republican Speaker of the House of Virginia in as the governor. That's why it's really inconclusive. Oh, they also found that the school knew about this and just hid it. Okay. My name's Greg Knapp in for Chad. This is the Chad Benson Show.
This is the Chad Benson Show. Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
Hey, how you doing? My name is Greg Knapp. I'm in for Chad on the Chad Benson Show. You can jump in at 844-DIG-CHAD, 844-DIG-CHAD, or thechadshow.com. Don't forget, over on Twitter, it's the handle at Chad Benson Show. Lots of ways to be a part of the broadcast. And the big news today was what's going on between President Trump and the House Democrats, and some Senator Democrats too, for the big infrastructure deal. Because President Trump, according to the media, he planned this temper tantrum. He planned this political theater where he was ready to walk out of the meeting with the Democrats, and he had a sign that was already made and a handout for everybody when he went to the Rose Garden to give this little talk. And that's probably true. And you know why? Because Trump heard last night that the Democrats were planning to have a meeting and talk about impeaching him right before they go in to meet with him, supposedly to work together. That Pelosi was coming out saying that Trump is part of a cover-up. So they're basically calling him a criminal. saying he should be impeached. They've called him everything under the sun, from traitor to criminal to obstruction of justice to colluding with Russia. The Mueller report comes out and says none of that is true and punted on the idea of obstruction of justice, where the Department of Justice looked at it and said not enough here to do anything with. And still that's not enough because they don't care about the law. They care about scoring political points. So Trump said, you know what, enough of it. And so, yeah, he went in and told them, you can't do both things at once. You can't legislate and investigate at the same time. So if you're here trying to investigate me and you're throwing 22 investigations at us and you're trying to issue a subpoena every second and just, burying us under paperwork, then I'm not going to be able to work with you guys. And if you're going to say I'm trying to cover something up, I don't play that. So President Trump came out, and here's what he said, cut one.
So I came here to do a meeting on infrastructure with Democrats, not really thinking they wanted to do infrastructure or anything else other than investigate. And I just saw that Nancy Pelosi, just before our meeting, made a statement that we believe that the President of the United States is engaged in a cover-up. Well, it turns out I'm the most, and I think most of you would agree to this, I'm the most transparent president probably in the history of this country.
What does he mean?
We have given on a witch hunt, on a hoax. The whole thing with Russia was a hoax as it relates to the Trump administration and myself. It was a total horrible thing that happened to our country.
All right, I'm going to skip to cut 3 here because when Trump said, I think most people agree, I'm the most transparent president, the Democrats, of course, are tearing their hair out. What are you talking about? He won't give us these subpoena documents, and he still won't release his tax returns. And well, he doesn't have to. Is there anything more private in your life than your tax returns? You don't have to turn those over. It's a giant fishing expedition to try to embarrass the president if they possibly can with it. You don't have to do that. But what Trump is talking about is the cooperation that he gave the Mueller report. He didn't use executive privilege to shield documents. They turned over documents. They had their people go and testify for hours upon hours in front of the Mueller investigators. So Trump says, this is what I'm talking about. Cut 3.
More than 2,500 subpoenas qualified for. And I let everybody talk. I let the White House counsel speak for 30 hours. 30 hours. I have 19 special counsel lawyers, 40 FBI agents. I said, open it all up. Let them have whatever they want. Nearly 500 search warrants. Think of that, a search warrant. Did you ever see a search warrant before? Neither did I.
Neither did
This
I.
was over 500 search warrants. And of the 19 people that were heading up this investigation, or whatever you want to call it, with Bob Mueller, they were contributors to the Democrat Party, most of them, and to Hillary Clinton. They hated President Trump. They hated him with a passion. They went to her big party after the election that turned out to be a wake. Not a party, it was a wake.
It was a wake. It was not a party. It was a wake. But Trump has a point here. Look, he gave all these documents. People testifying for hours. One of his lawyers testifying for 30 hours. And this is what they're claiming is not cooperating because they're doing 22 investigations? You remember how upset the media got when the Republicans actually wanted to find out what happened under Obama with Operation Fast and Furious, illegal guns running to Mexico? Oh, come on, it's time to move on. When Republicans actually wanted to find out what led up to our American servicemen and ambassador being killed in Benghazi? Oh, come on, what difference does it make at this point anyway? Move along. When we wanted to know about the IRS targeting conservative groups, oh, come on with these investigations. It's ridiculous. Right? When we wanted to know Hillary's emails using a personal server, not just a personal email account, but a personal server, and we found out that everything she said about it was a lie. Well, I did it because I only wanted, one device. Wrong. She used multiple devices. Well, I did it because, I wasn't really using any classified material anyway. Wrong. There was classified material on there. Well, but there wasn't any classified material that was marked classified on there. Wrong. It was. President Obama. I didn't even know she had a private server until I read about it in the papers. Wrong, because of the actual domain name on her email that went to President Obama. Wrong, lie. And then we find out that emails were erased, that hard drives were crashed, that BleachBit was used to get rid of evidence. But this is what they're upset about. After a 2-year investigation showed there was nothing there. Nothing there at all on Russian collusion, coordination, or conspiracy. Well, what about obstruction of justice? Obstructing a crime that didn't happen? Well, legally you can do that. And what did Mueller say about that? Inconclusive. Decided to leave it up to the Department of Justice. And what did the Department of Justice decide? Not enough information to say that there should be any charges. Exactly. So where's MoveOn.org at this point? Shouldn't we be moving on? No! Because it's about taking this president down. And Trump said, listen, from day one, that's what they've been trying to do. Actually, before day one, from the moment he was elected, even before inauguration, this was in the works. And so Trump said, even with all this going on, look at all the great stuff that's been happening on my watch. Cut 2, please.
It hurt us in so many ways. Despite that, we're setting records with the economy, with jobs, with the most people employed today that we've ever had in the history of our country. We have the best unemployment numbers that we've had in the history of our country. In some cases, 51 years, but generally in the history of our country. Companies are moving back in. Things are going well. And I said, let's have the meeting on infrastructure. We'll get that done easily. That's one of the easy ones. And instead of walking in happily into a meeting, I walk in to look at people that had just said that I was doing a cover-up. I don't do cover-ups.
Don't do cover-ups. Yeah, how would you feel if, especially when you know you're innocent? Trump has been for 2 years knowing he had nothing to do with this Russia thing, that it was all a bunch of nonsense. And for 2 years it's been going on. How would you feel? And then you find out that the people that supposedly are going to work with you on a deal are meeting right before they meet with you to try to impeach you, talking about how they're going to impeach you. What would you do? See, I'm glad there's actually somebody fighting back. Because, we're really in a battle here. This is what William Barr, the Attorney General, is looking at is we're in a battle for the soul of America. We really are. For this idea that the law matters, that no one is above the law, that the vote matters, that the way our system is set up, you win the right number of electoral college votes, and you are the president. And just because you don't like him, or you don't think he should be president, or you don't like how his hair looks or the color of his skin, you don't have the right to try to remove him and to put forward an entire investigation based on nonsense for 2 years to totally undermine the entire first 4 years of his presidency. You don't have the right to do that any way you want to. And so what we have to look at is, were the laws broken to do that? And it sure looks like they were. And who knew it when? How many people were involved with it? And should they be going to jail? And I think the script's about to flip. So then Trump continues, and this is where he's just all Trump here, when he's talking about Russia, that they're still talking about Russia. Cut 4.
Well, this is very sad, because this meeting was set up a number of days ago at 11 o'clock. All of a sudden, I hear last night they're going to have a meeting right before this meeting to talk about the I word. The I word.
Impeach.
Can you imagine? I don't speak to Russians about campaigns.
Russians.
When I went to Wisconsin and Michigan and Pennsylvania, I don't say, oh, let's call Russia. Maybe they can. It's a hoax. The greatest hoax in history.
Oh, let's call Russia. He's kidding. That's the kind of thing that just drives the inside the Beltway people nutso. Because how could a president talk like that? But you know what's amazing is, as much as The mainstream media and the celebrities and the Democrats, but I repeat myself, have been trying to say that this guy's just so out of control, not like a president. They're all trying to imitate him, aren't they? Look at the Twitter feed. Look at the Facebook feeds. Look at the sound bites. Look at everything that's coming out of these Democrats. All of them are imitating Trump. Even Biden. He's trying not to. They're trying to keep him contained, but he's still throwing out insults at Trump. He's still doing things that supposedly is not presidential. But they're all imitating him. I got one more from Trump I want to get to, and then the response from Pelosi. We've got that for you as well. And then, remember that guy, Michael Avenatti? Remember him and Stormy Daniels? Oh, man, things are not going well over at the Avenatti house. We'll get you the details on that, too. My name's Greg Knapp. I'm in for Chad Benson, 844-DIG-CHAD. This is the Chad Benson Show.
Plea deal this.
Mueller, arrest me.
Chad will trade you 2 perjury charges for 1 collusion and throw in a reduced charge of obstruction for free.
Yeah, I'd do that.
For just listening to The Chad Benson Show.
And my name is Greg Knapp. I'm in for Chad on The Chad Benson Show. We're talking about Trump walking out on this infrastructure meeting with the Democrats. And, you know, I've got problems with Trump. I don't like some of the things he says and does. I don't like the way he's handled himself in his personal life with his marital relationships. I don't necessarily like all the tweets. So what? That doesn't mean that the guy shouldn't be president. He won. I had the choice between him and Hillary. It wasn't even close. I was anybody but Hillary. Look at her moral compass. That thing's gone. Look at all the problems that she's done over time with her email situation in Benghazi and what she did with Bill Clinton and going back and back and back to Whitewater and all the other things that were going on. She doesn't have any kind of moral superiority. And then, of course, the main thing that I look at is the actual policies, and her policies were horrible. The judges she would have put on the bench would have been extremely liberal. No way I'd want to ever have that woman in charge of this nation. So, of course, I'm going to vote for Trump. I don't like what Trump really wants to do with this whole infrastructure thing. I don't think we need to spend all this money that he's talking about spending. We already spend $76 billion a year at the federal level on transportation already. Then you throw in what happens at the state level. But I think he's dead right to say, why should I go in and try and act like we're going to make deals when these guys are trying to cut me off at the knees? They're talking about impeachment. They're calling me a traitor. They're throwing every name they can think of at me, and I'm supposed to then sit down with them and work on an infrastructure deal with them? No. I think he's right. And then one of the reporters spoke up and said, this is cut 5 for Trump. He said, hey, do you believe Congress is an equal branch of government? Here's what Trump said.
I respect the courts. I respect Congress. I respect right here where we're standing. But what they've done is abuse. This is investigation number 4 and the same thing. Probably 5. And it really started, I think, pretty much from the time we came down the escalator in Trump Tower. So I say to you that we're going to get everything done. We're doing a lot without them. Let them play their games. We're going to go down one track at a time. Let them finish up. And we'll be all set.
So then, after the president was done, Pelosi and Schumer came out with their little presser. And here's what Nancy Pelosi said.
We do believe that it's important to follow the facts. We believe that no one is above the law, including the President of the United States. And we believe that the President of the United States is engaged in a cover-up. In a cover-up.
Cover-up. In a cover-up. He's engaged in a cover-up. Well, then she went on to say, she was asked by a reporter, were you successful at trying to convince some of your members on impeachment or contempt? Is that a part of the persuasion at this stage? It's like she wants her to persuade them. Pelosi, it wasn't a question of persuasion. We were just exchanging information and points of view. And then we get down to her saying this about President Trump walking out on that meeting. Maybe it was lack of confidence on his part. See, she's trying to goad him and bait him because she knows those kind of things bother him. I hope he can rise above that. Maybe it was a lack of confidence on his part that he really couldn't match the greatness of the challenge that we have. Wasn't really respectful of Congress and the White House working together. You mean like Obama saying I have a pen and I have a phone and I'll use it, and him going around Congress time after time after time and getting shot down in the courts? And really, DACA, when it gets to the Supreme Court and gets totally looked at, should be shot down. She goes on. It just makes me wonder why he did that. He told you exactly why. In any event, I pray for the President of the United States. Oh, that's nice. We went in the spirit of bipartisanship. What? You had just left a meeting talking about impeaching him. The spirit of bipartisanship to find common ground with the president. I don't even know how this woman can. She's calling Trump a liar. Everything out of her mouth is a lie. So Trump responds, I've said from the beginning, right from the beginning, you probably can't go down two tracks. You can go down the investigation track, or you can go down the investment track. Right? And you can't do both. He said you can't legislate while you investigate. So sad that Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer will never be able to see or understand the great promise of our country.
The Chad Benson Show.
Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
My name's Greg Knapp. I'm in for Chad on the Chad Benson Show. 844-DIG-CHAD. 844-DIG-CHAD. Get you into the program. You can also go online, thechadshow.com. And at Chad Benson is the Twitter handle. At Chad Benson Show, is the Twitter handle. Before I get into what's going on with Michael Avenatti, the lawyer for porn star Stormy Daniels, and all the problems that he's facing now, it just keeps getting worse for him. I saw this one today, and it kind of got my attention. Here's the headline. McDonald's workers want OSHA to investigate a pattern of violence. And the thrust of this story is, hey, we work at McDonald's, and McDonald's has a lot of violence. People come in, they get mad because we don't get the order right, or we didn't give them a straw, and they start screaming at us. And then if we yell back, they start hitting us. And sometimes people throw stuff at us. We even had a time where a guy jumped over the counter and started throwing water and hot coffee around. And our manager said, next time that happens, you just start throwing hot water on him. And I mean, they don't care about us. It's craziness. And so in Chicago especially, they're saying, look at all these problems we've been having at these McDonald's. And it's up to McDonald's to fix this problem. And my first thought to myself was, are all McDonald's having these problems, or is it that there are certain McDonald's locations that are having these problems? And of course, as you read down into this, it's certain McDonald's at certain locations at certain times of day that are having these problems. And I think you can guess where. The worst crime neighborhoods between 10 p.m. and 4 a.m. is when most of these problems are happening. Now, should McDonald's do more to protect their workers? Quite possibly so. Have to look at all the details and find out more. The article here said by Josh Edelson says every 36 hours on average, American local news outlets deliver a new report on violence at a McDonald's. And a group of employees in Chicago say workers bear the brunt of such incidents. It's a pattern of regular on-the-job violence. They want the company to address it across the U.S. They're complaining to OSHA, but it's not everywhere across the U.S. You go to low-crime neighborhoods, and there's almost never a problem at McDonald's. It's in the high-crime neighborhoods between 10 p.m. and 4 a.m. So what are the possible solutions? Well, we've got people saying all McDonald's has to do is follow what OSHA has out here. If they would simply adopt OSHA's guidelines for curbing violence in late-night retail, you can limit the amount of cash in the register, you can increase staffing, you can improve visibility. McDonald's could enhance security with panic buttons, more secure drive-through windows and counters, better record keeping and staff training, and mental health services and paid time off for workers who experience trauma. That's all you got to do. That's an awful lot. And I'll be honest with you, I don't think that's going to do it. what they really want, what these employees really want, is for McDonald's to hire full-time armed security, or at least between 10 p.m. and 4 a.m. And if you do that, that's going to cost a lot of money because, armed security, that kind of security they're talking about is going to be a police officer who is off duty. And from what I understand, they make time and a half for that kind of work. So that's going to be pretty expensive to have an armed security guard there all the time. To do all the other things OSHA's talking about costs money too. So then what does the owner of the franchise do at that point? Saying, I'm barely making money as it is. I've got people coming in who are criminals, unfortunately. And so I'm going to do all these things to try and stop the crime. It's going to eat up my profit. I'm going to have to increase the cost of my burgers. Or I'm going to have to lay off some people. And OSHA said I need to hire more people, so I can't do that. So I'm going to have to increase the cost to the customer, or I'm going to have to shut down. So think about this. So if the response from these franchise owners in these high crime neighborhoods is to follow everything OSHA recommended, and it all comes at higher cost, right? Hire more people, cost more money. Have mental health services available, cost more money. Give paid time off for workers who experience, quote, trauma, end quote. Depending on how many people are taking paid time off, you got to replace them with people. So now you're paying twice for the same time. Going to cost more money. Better record keeping and more staff training, costs more money. Install security and panic buttons and more secure drive-through windows and counters, costs more money. All of that has got to be paid for by someone. So if the response is franchise owners in bad neighborhoods with high crime rates say we're going to have to increase the cost of the customer or we're going to close, you know what the next thing coming out of the mouths of the people who work there and go there is, right? Racist! What do you mean? Well, unfortunately, more of the high crime neighborhoods are in more of the minority areas. And so if you start charging more for that burger in that area, you can't charge more for that burger. That's not fair. That's racist. You're charging a high minority population more money for that burger. But it doesn't matter who comes in the store, white person, black person, Hispanic person, Asian person, they all have to pay more because we're having to spend more money to keep this store. Doesn't matter. It's a high minority area. Therefore, what you are doing is racist. I'm going to have to close this McDonald's because I'm not making any money. Well, that's not right. People here have just as much right to a McDonald's as they do anywhere else. You don't have the right to do that. You see how it goes? I'm telling you, that's what's going to happen. It's the same thing I told you was going to happen when they start demanding the $15 minimum wage to do a job that I could teach a high school dropout to do in 5 minutes. How dare you say that? They're working hard. They're working 40 hours a week. Anybody working 40 hours a week should make enough to raise a family of 4. No, you shouldn't. These are entry-level jobs. Sweeping the floor, cleaning the toilet, washing dishes, flipping burgers. That's called an entry-level job. I know because I used to have an entry-level job. And what you do from the entry-level job is you increase your skills and increase your value to the employer so you can get a better job. Sometimes that's by going to school to get a degree or going to a vocational school to learn how to do something like be a plumber or an electrician or a welder or an x-ray technician or a dental hygienist or there's so many things you can do to improve your skills and your value to an employer so you can make money. Or maybe eventually you decide you're going to start your own business. There's a million things you can do other than demand $15 an hour to sweep a floor, which I can teach a high school dropout to do in 5 minutes. So as they're demanding $15 an hour for a job I can teach a high school dropout to do in 5 minutes, guess how the market is already responding? Automation. How many McDonald's, Panera Breads, and other type places like that have you gone into now where you don't have to talk to a person to place your order? There's a kiosk right there. Or better yet, there's an app on your phone. And you can order on your app and walk in and pick up your food without really even having to talk to anybody. It's coming, and it's coming fast. So the more you demand more money for something I can teach a high school dropout to do in 5 minutes, the quicker you're going to be out of work. Maybe it's time to quit, blaming everybody else and actually make yourself valuable in the workplace. I know it's crazy. I know it's way out there, but that might be the idea. It drives me crazy when I see it. I've been working here for 20 years and I'm still not making good money. If you've been working at McDonald's for 20 years and you're making minimum wage, there's something wrong with you. Because really, if you go to McDonald's and you work hard and you say, hey, look, I really want to be in management, what do I need to do? And, hey, I'm willing to take on extra shifts. I'm willing to take on extra responsibility. You'll probably be assistant manager in 6 months and probably be a manager in a year. That makes more than minimum wage. So something's wrong. And it's how much responsibility, by the way, does McDonald's have for criminals coming into their place of business? I mean, really, I understand that they want to take care of their employees, but how much of that is their fault and how much of that is a lack of policing in the neighborhoods where these particular McDonald's are? 844-DIG-CHAD gets you on board the program. 844-DIG-CHAD, and you are in. You can go to @Chad Benson Show to tweet, and you can go to thechadshow.com for more online. Michael Avenatti. This is the guy, of course, who became famous because he was on CNN 24/7. And when he wasn't on CNN 24/7, he was on MSNBC 24/7. Greg, you can't be on both places 24/7. It's just a joke. It's a little hyperbole. Stay with me. He was on TV all the time because he was going after President Trump with the porn star Stormy Daniels accusations. And so that had to be, big time, big news because everybody wanted to tune into that and see Stormy Daniels. And so he's become a big name. The problem is with increased, what's the word I'm looking for here? With an increased image and higher exposure, more of his behavior has been looked at. And now federal prosecutors in New York are charging Michael Avenatti with additional financial crimes. They're now claiming that he forged the signature of Stormy Daniels and diverted almost $300,000 that was supposed to go to her for a book advance into his own account. Whoa. That's just the beginning of what the feds are alleging. I'll get you the rest of it and what he's claiming is the truth in just a minute. My name is Greg Knapp. I'm in for Chad Benson. 844-DIG-CHAD gets you in to the Chad Benson Show.
Deep states? No. Deep doo-doo? Yeah. The Chad Benson Show.
My name is Greg Knapp, in for Chad on the Chad Benson Show. 844-DIG-CHAD or thechadshow.com. Over on Twitter, it's @Chad Benson Show. Lots of ways for you to be part of the program. And I'm telling you about what's going on with Michael Avenatti. Of course, he was the attorney for porn star Stormy Daniels. That was his claim to fame. That's what got him on TV all the time, to the point where CNN and some of the Democrats were even talking about him running for president on the Democratic side. And it's not looking so great for the dude now. Now the federal prosecutors in New York are saying they're charging him with forging the signature of Stormy Daniels, diverting nearly $300,000 that was owed to her for a book advance, and putting it in his own account. $300,000 for a book from Stormy Daniels? Well, those are political books, so it's all about the political ideology that goes into it. And I'm sure the book publisher was figuring that just to reward Stormy Daniels for coming out against the president, that enough Democrats would buy up the book that they'd make their money back, and that it's just a little payoff, a legal payoff. That's really all that is. All right. Prosecutors say he then used the money that he took from Daniels to make payments on his Ferrari. Well, listen, a guy's got to get around. What do you expect him to take the bus? He's got to pay for the monthly payments on the Ferrari, and he had to pay for airfare and his dry cleaning, hotel and restaurant bills, payroll and insurance costs for his law firm's employees. This guy has responsibilities. By the way, these are just the newest charges against this guy, right? He's been having problems before. Here's from the feds. Quote, Avenatti used misrepresentations in a fraudulent document purporting to bear his client's name and signature to convince his client's literary agent to divert money owed to Avenatti's client to an account controlled by Avenatti. Avenatti then spent the money principally for his own personal and business purposes. Those are federal prosecutors in New York. Now, they've already accused Avenatti of extortion. That's that Nike case, remember? Where they were trying to get millions out of him. And so this is more. This is new stuff. Now, Avenatti is denying it all. He's saying no monies relating to Miss Daniels were ever misappropriated or mishandled. She received millions of dollars worth of legal services, and we expended huge sums in expenses. Wait a second. It cost millions of dollars? What she got into with Trump cost millions of dollars in legal fees? And she's overcharged, man. She's way, way overcharged for that. He said she directly paid me only $100. I thought he was doing it pro bono. Wasn't he all about the struggle? Wasn't he all about the resistance? Wasn't this all just about doing the right thing? Because he knew Stormy Daniels didn't have any money. He went, no. It's not for the free. How much did he get from her in free publicity? The only reason people know this guy's name is because of his client, Stormy Daniels. She could probably say she gave him millions of dollars in free publicity. Well, the federal prosecutors are charging in court papers that Avenatti forged Daniels' signature on a document for the purpose of diverting those funds. Right? Well, now, here's the thing. You get down to it, and what Avenatti is saying is, hey, I didn't take any money I wasn't owed. I didn't mishandle anything. That money was mine. So he's not denying that he took the money from the advance for the book. Now, she claims that he told her that the publisher wasn't paying up. A month after diverting one payment of $148,750 into his own account, Avenatti allegedly used funds received from another source to pay. 1 week after that, Avenatti diverted a second payment of $148,750 to Daniels into his own account. Quote, to conceal his scheme, despite repeated requests to Avenatti as Daniels' lawyer for assistance in obtaining the book payment that Daniels believed was missing, Avenatti led her to believe that her publisher was refusing to make the payment. That's from the prosecutors. Wow. So we'll have to follow through. Hey, maybe Avenatti's right. Maybe he does have contracts and text messages that show that he's right and that Stormy Daniels isn't telling the truth. But this is not looking good for Avenatti. Not looking good at all. Oh, and I wanted to get to this one. The ex-Navy SEAL who killed bin Laden says they went to some extraordinary lengths to try to confirm the identity. Admiral William McRaven was also on with Neil Cavuto on Fox Business News, and they were talking about this. And Admiral McRaven said that after bin Laden was killed, he had to personally go and identify the body. And they knew he was very tall. So ex-Navy SEAL O'Neill said they used a sniper to physically confirm his identity. And here's what he means. He said, the tallest guy we had was one of our snipers. He was about 6'2". So the admiral asked him to lay down next to bin Laden's body, and that was part of us realizing, yep, that's a tall dude. No, wait a second. That's how we identify. How about, I don't know, DNA? And they go, oh, yeah, we use DNA too. We use as many things as possible. And he looked like bin Laden. And I'm a little confused here. If you have DNA from the body, why do you need a tall guy to lay down to him, next to him? Does that seem a little weird to you? Now, O'Neill said, I was sure going in. I was sure when I saw him that it was bin Laden. When I saw him standing on 2 feet, I recognized his nose. His beard was shorter and white. No doubt in my mind when I saw him for about 4 seconds that we just got bin Laden. He also said that there was a group of women that found him. And one woman in particular, 100% right, 100% of the people inside, she was so frustrated saying, if you want a shot at bin Laden, he's on the 3rd floor. Well, that's all awesome, but isn't DNA the deal breaker? It wasn't for OJ. All right, did we have to go there? Really? Thanks for being with me. Greg Knapp in for Chad Benson. This is the Chad Benson Show.
The Chad Benson Show.